My father slid me a bill on Christmas. $8,400, your portion of the family trip we're booking. I said, no one invited me. He grinned. You're funding it, not going. Your sister's kids deserve this. I cut the check to an attorney. When they reached the airport and every card was declined at boarding, can you even imagine being handed a bill by your own father for a family vacation you weren't invited to? An $8,400 invoice, meticulously itemized, for flights, resorts, even souvenirs. But the gut-wrenching kicker? He looked me dead in the eye, that confident, cold smile plastered on his face, and said, you're paying, not attending. Your sister's kids need this. What the hell do you do when your own flesh and blood treats you like a personal ATM and your child like she doesn't even exist? Story. It all started on Christmas Day, like so many family dramas do. Our Christmas dinner at my dad's house always had a schedule, you know? Coats folded neatly on the bed, shoes lined up like little soldiers by the door. My sister Beth's kids, Tanner, Kenzie, Milo, would be tearing through the hallways, a blur of energy, while the adults just plastered on smiles and pretended the noise wasn't slowly drilling into their skulls. I probably should have known something was profoundly off the second I saw them. 3 matching Vacori 2026 sweatshirts, folded on the back of the couch. All kid sizes. Not one for my daughter. Nora, my quiet, polite Nora, was standing by the Christmas tree, her hands clasped behind her back, rocking on her heels, that little habit she had when she was trying so hard to be brave. She was 9, and she'd chosen her green dress herself, even curled the ends of her hair because she desperately wanted to look like a real grandkid. Even now, that thought makes my throat seize up. Dinner ended like it always did. Plates scraped clean. Beth had accidentally forgotten the salad she promised. My dad poured himself a second drink before the pie was even sliced. And then he did the thing he loved most. He made an announcement. He stood there in the living room, puffing up his chest like he was about to hand out Olympic medals. Beth's kids, they knew the routine. They lined up, waiting. My dad liked to give gifts in a certain order, like it proved something about him. He held up 3 crisp, white envelopes. Not Christmas cards, no. These were airport envelopes, that bold print, the little airline logo in the corner. Tanner, Beth's oldest, ripped his open, screaming in delight. It was a printed itinerary. Plane tickets. His name, bold and clear. Family vacation, he shrieked. Kenzie, the middle one, got hers next. Same reaction, same piercing squeal. Milo, the youngest, just started flapping his like a bird. Everyone laughed. My dad beamed, like he'd personally invented joy. Then he looked at Nora. He didn't hand her an envelope. He just gave her a quick, dismissive nod, like she was an extra in his grand production. Nora's smile stayed fixed on her face for a second too long, then just slid right off, leaving my hands cold. She looked down, fiddling with the ribbon on her dress. I waited. I kept waiting for my dad to say her name. He didn't. He cleared his throat, turned to me, and slid a 4th envelope across the coffee table. This one was thicker, heavier. I figured it's best to be upfront, he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. My heart was pounding. I opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper, typed. Neat, stark, like a dentist's bill. $8,400. Your share. And beneath it, in smaller print, a breakdown. Flights, resort, car rental, park tickets, an emergency fund, even souvenirs for the kids. My share. I stared at it until the numbers blurred. What is this? I managed to ask, my voice a whisper. My dad's eyes flicked to Nora for half a second, then back to me. A family vacation, he said, as if I was the slow one. We're planning it. I swallowed hard. I wasn't invited. Beth made a little, warning noise in her throat, like I was about to embarrass her. My dad didn't even blink. He just smiled. Not warm, not even awkward. Just confident. You're paying, he said. Not attending. Your sister's kids need this. For a second, the room went dead silent. I could hear Nora's shoes squeak as she shifted her weight. The tiny buzz of the Christmas lights on the tree. my own pulse thrumming in my ears. I forced my voice to stay level. So, you bought tickets for Beth's kids, made a budget, and decided my role was what? Sponsor? He shrugged. You do well for yourself. Beth jumped in quickly, her voice laced with manufactured concern. Dad, don't make it sound like that. Larry, it's just you know how hard it's been. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so damn familiar. How hard it's been in my family always translated to Larry will handle it. Nora took a tiny step closer to me, her hand brushing my sleeve. I looked down and she whispered, so quiet I almost missed it. Did I do something wrong? And that was it. Not the bill. Not my dad's smug smirk. Not Beth acting like this was perfectly normal. It was that question. From a child who already worked so hard just to be small, to not be a burden. My throat tightened. My hands shook, but I kept my face still. I bent down, kissed the top of her head, and whispered back, no, baby, you didn't. Then I stood up. I folded the paper once, carefully, like it was something sharp. My dad watched me, probably expecting a fight. I didn't give him one. I'll think about it, I said calmly. And I just took Nora's coat from the chair. Beth's eyes widened. Larry, don't. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't knock over a single decoration. I just left. Nora held my hand so tight in the driveway that my fingers went numb. In the car, she stared out the window the whole ride home, blinking fast, trying not to cry. I drove with my jaw clenched, every fiber of my being screaming. I kept thinking about every time I'd convince myself my dad was just old-fashioned or set in his ways, as if that made his cruelty any less real. And I kept seeing those 3 white envelopes and the gaping, empty space where Nora should have been. I'm Larry. I was 39 then. I lived in a 2-bedroom rental outside Columbus, working as a journalist. Local investigative stuff, city contracts, corruption stories. The kind of work that makes you unpopular at parties, but helps you sleep at night. Nora came into my life 2 years earlier. She wasn't my biological kid. She was my late wife's niece. After my wife died, Nora bounced around between relatives who meant well but treated her like an inconvenience. I stepped in, not to make a statement, but because I couldn't bear the thought of her growing up feeling unwanted. I adopted her, and she was already mine in every way that mattered. My family acted supportive at first. They used the right words, brought a casserole, told people at church how generous I was. But the tone shifted fast. Nora didn't fit their picture. She didn't share my last name originally. She didn't have Beth's kids' loud confidence. She didn't call my dad Grandpa in a booming voice. She called him Sir for the first month because she didn't know what she was allowed to call him. My dad pretended not to notice her. Beth treated her like a guest who had stayed too long. And I kept trying. Because that's what I always did. I tried to earn love in my family with effort. And money. It didn't start with big asks. It started with little ones. Can you cover Dad's prescription this month? He'll pay you back. He never did. Can you help with Milo's braces? Insurance is being weird. Can you put the plane tickets on your card? We'll Venmo you. They never did. They always said we. They always met me. Over the years, I paid for my dad's new water heater. His old one hadn't given out. He just liked a nicer model. Beth's minivan down payment after she cried at my kitchen table about needing something safe for the kids. The family phone plan because my dad liked the idea of one bill, and Beth liked the idea of not paying it. A week of groceries, more times than I can count, because Beth would text, "Don't tell Dad, but we're low until Friday." I didn't keep a spreadsheet because I didn't want to feel bitter. But after that Christmas, I did the math. It was ugly. Over about 3 years, I'd poured somewhere between $22,000 and $25,000 into my family in quiet ways. Not gifts, not treating them, just plugging holes. Because if I didn't plug them, they'd call me selfish. And the entire time, Nora stayed the plus one. A kid whose name was spelled wrong on place cards. A kid whose stocking got forgotten until my mom cut her name out of printer paper and taped it on. A A kid who got told, "Go play in the other room, sweetie," whenever adults were taking pictures. I swallowed it. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. I told myself they'd come around. But the truth was, the more I gave, the more comfortable they got treating me like a utility, like a checking account with a heartbeat. That Christmas bill wasn't sudden. It was the end of a pattern. My dad had been furious the year before when I refused to co-sign a loan Beth wanted for a bigger place. I told him no, calmly, firmly. Not because I wanted Beth to struggle, but because I'd seen how she treated money, how she treated consequences. My dad took it personally, like my refusal was disrespect. After that, the little slights started stacking up. Nora didn't get invited to Cousin's Day at Beth's. Nora wasn't included in the group chat photo dump because it was too many pictures already. Nora's birthday card from my parents was addressed to Na twice. When I corrected them, my dad laughed and said, "You know what I meant." And I let it slide, because it was easier than starting a war. Until the bill. Until you're paying not attending. Until Nora asked if she did something wrong. That was my last straw. Because it wasn't just about a vacation. It was about what that vacation represented. A family event where they planned to make memories, take pictures, and post captions like #blessed, and my child wasn't part of that family, unless my money was. The next morning, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table while Nora watched cartoons in her pajamas. She laughed at something on the screen, and it sounded thin, forced. I stared at the bill again. $8,400. My dad had the gall to price out souvenirs like it was a line item. I didn't call him. I didn't text Beth. I opened my laptop and searched for the lawyer my coworker had used during her divorce. Not because I was getting divorced, but because I needed someone who wasn't emotionally tangled in my family to tell me what I could do. Cleanly. Legally. Finally. Her name was Priya Patel. Her office was in a brick building downtown with a lobby that smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. When I called, her assistant asked what I needed. I heard myself say, "I need to separate finances from family." The words came out steady, even though my hand was shaking. They gave me an appointment for that afternoon. I used a sick day. I didn't tell anyone. I drove downtown with that bill in my pocket, feeling like it weighed 10 pounds. In Priya's office, she didn't flinch when I laid the paper on her desk. She read it once, then looked up at me. "Do you have any joint accounts?" she asked. I nodded. One checking account with my dad. It's old. He convinced me to open it for emergencies after my mom died. Any shared credit lines? I swallowed. My dad is an authorized user on one of my cards. Beth is on another. I added them years ago for family emergencies. Priya's face didn't change, but her voice went very calm. Authorized users can be removed. Joint accounts can be closed or restructured, depending on the agreement. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Then I asked the question that made my stomach twist. If I stop paying, will it blow back on me? Priya leaned back slightly. Not if we do it correctly. The goal is to protect you and your child, and to make it hard for them to keep treating you like the bank. My chest tightened at the word child, because that was the entire point. I wasn't doing this to punish them. I was doing this to protect Nora. Priya slid a retainer agreement across the desk. The amount at the bottom was almost the same as that damn bill. I stared at it, then laughed once, short and bitter. She raised an eyebrow. My dad handed me a bill for $8,400, I said. I'm about to spend $8,400. Priya didn't smile. She just nodded like she understood exactly. I wrote a check. Not to my father. Not to my sister. To a lawyer. And when I handed it over, my hand stopped shaking. It felt like choosing my own spine. That night, after Nora went to bed, I sat on the couch with my laptop open and did what my family had never expected me to do. I took control. I logged into my banking app. I stared at the joint checking account with my dad, an account I'd used for years to transfer money when he texted, needed help. The balance wasn't huge, but it didn't matter. It was symbolic. It was a leash. I clicked into the account settings and started the process to close it. The app asked me to confirm, then confirm again. It warned me, Closing a joint account may require both parties. I took screenshots. Then I called the bank's customer service line and asked for a supervisor. I kept my voice flat. My father and I share this account. I need my name removed. The supervisor asked questions, verified my identity, put me on hold twice. My heart pounded the whole time. Finally, she said, "We can restrict withdrawals and require dual authorization for any transfers until this is resolved." I said, "Do it." A confirmation email hit my inbox a minute later. Then I moved to the credit cards. The first one, my dad's authorized user status, took less than 5 minutes. I clicked Manage Users. I hovered over his name for a second, not because I doubted myself, but because I could practically hear his voice in my head. "After everything I've done for you." I clicked Remove. The site asked, "Are you sure?" I clicked Yes. Confirmation screen. Then Beth's card. She was on my travel card, my work trips, and hotels card. I'd added her when Milo was born early, and she'd cried about hospital bills. She'd promised she'd never use it unless she asked. She used it anyway. I'd caught charges for Target and a nail salon once. She'd laughed it off. It was an accident. I grabbed the wrong one. Sure. I removed her too. 2 confirmation emails, 2 severed cords. Then, I turned off autopay on the family phone plan I'd been covering. I transferred Nora's phone number to a separate plan under my name only. I did it all like I was filing a story. Step by step. Screenshots. Receipts. No emotion, just facts. When I finally closed my laptop, it was after midnight. My living room was quiet. The Christmas tree lights blinked like nothing had changed. But I felt different. Not angry. Clear. The next morning, my phone started lighting up. First my dad, then Beth, then my dad again. I let them go to voicemail while I made Nora oatmeal. She came into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. "Are we still going to Grandma's for Christmas brunch?" she asked, so careful. I crouched beside her. "No," I said. "Not this year." Her face tightened for a second, like she was bracing for disappointment. Then she asked, "Did I mess up?" I shook my head. "You didn't mess up. They did." She stared at me like she didn't fully understand, but she wanted to, so I kept it simple. "You don't have to be where you're not treated kindly." Her shoulders lowered a little, like her small body had been holding something heavy. "Oh," she whispered. Then she asked, "Can we make pancakes instead?" "Yeah," I said. "We can make pancakes." While Nora mixed batter, I checked my voicemail. My dad's first message was all fake calm. "Larry, call me back. We need to finalize the vacation payments." Beth's was sharper. "Are you seriously doing this? The kids are counting on you." Then my dad again, voice tight now. I tried to use the card to finish paying the airline fees. It declined. "Fix it." "What's going on?" "Just an order." I deleted the voicemails. Then I got a text from my Aunt Diane, my dad's sister. "Your dad is spiraling. What happened?" I hesitated. Then I typed back, "He gave me a bill for a vacation I'm not invited to. Nora wasn't included. I'm done." Diane replied almost immediately, "About time. Call me later." That message felt like someone opening a window in a stuffy room. Because Diane had always been the one adult in my family who saw the dynamic for what it was. By the time New Year's rolled around, the vacation was still happening. Not because I paid, but because my family was stubborn. Beth posted vague stuff online about hard seasons and people showing their true colors. My dad told anyone who would listen that I was being manipulated by that kid. That's what he called Nora. Not my daughter, not his granddaughter. That kid. Then 2 weeks later, on a Monday morning, my phone buzzed again. "Beth, 3 missed calls." A text that read, "What did you do?" Then another, "We are at the airport." Then another, "The cards are declining." I stared at the screen for a long second. Nora was eating cereal at the table, humming to herself while she colored a picture of a penguin. Normal life. The life I was protecting. My phone rang again. "Dad, this time." I answered. Not because I wanted to argue, but because I wanted one clean sentence. Larry, my dad snapped. No greeting. Fix your card. It's not my card, I said, my voice steady. It's connected to your account, he barked. It was, I said. You're not on it anymore. Silence. Not shock. Rage loading. Then he said, low and dangerous. You can't do that. I can't, I said. And I did. In the background, I heard airport noise. Announcements. Rolling suitcases. A kid whining. That kid, I guessed. My dad hissed. We're at the counter. The agent is looking at us like we're criminals. I didn't respond. He pushed harder. The kids are here, Larry. I looked at Nora. Still humming. Still coloring. Still peaceful. I said, so is mine. Beth's voice cut in, loud and panicked. Dad said you were still paying. Larry, you can't do this right now. I didn't agree to pay, I said. I wasn't invited. Beth made a frustrated sound like she was trying to chew through a wall. You're punishing the kids. I kept my voice steady. No. I'm stopping a pattern. My dad exploded then. You're selfish. I didn't let him finish. I said the sentence I'd practiced in my head 100 times. I won't fund a family my daughter isn't part of. Then I hung up. My hands were shaking after, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From doing something I'd never done. Choosing my child over their comfort. Later, I learned what happened at the airport from Diane. Because Diane had friends everywhere and a mouth that didn't stay quiet. My family had gotten to the gate with their rolling bags and matching sweatshirts. They tried to check luggage. Declined. They tried a different card. Also declined because Beth had been leaning on my travel card for extras without even realizing she was doing it. They tried to pay the resort deposit online. Declined. My dad had apparently turned red, then purple, then started demanding to speak to someone in charge, like the airline had personally betrayed him. And because my dad was my dad, he doubled down instead of adjusting. He told the airline agent, loud enough for strangers to hear, that his son always pays. As if that was a legal argument. The agent didn't care about my family's tradition of using me. She cared about payment. No payment, no luggage. No resort deposit, no check-in. No car rental, no keys. Beth's husband started yelling at Beth. Beth started crying. Tanner started whining that they were ruining everything. And my dad, in the middle of all of it, kept saying, this is Larry's fault. They still boarded the plane, apparently, because the tickets were purchased already. But they landed with no rental car, no hotel confirmation, in a resort that wouldn't hand over room keys without the deposit. They spent hours in a lobby arguing, calling people, trying to transfer money between accounts like it was a magic trick. And for the first time in years, they didn't have my account to lean on. The consequences weren't dramatic. No one got arrested. No one got harmed. They just hit the wall of reality. And reality didn't care about my dad's entitlement. The fallout came fast. My dad showed up at my house 2 days after they returned, pounding on the door like he owned it. Nora was in her room, doing homework. I opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind me. My dad's face was tight, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. You embarrassed me, he said. I didn't argue that point. I just asked, did you invite Nora? He blinked, like the question was stupid. That's not. Did you invite her? I repeated. He clenched his jaw. The vacation was for the kids. She is a kid, I said. He scoffed. You know what I mean. And there it was. The same line every time. You know what I mean, meaning not her. I kept my voice calm. No more, I said. My dad's nostrils flared. No more what? No more money, I said. No more access. No more bills handed to me like I'm your employee. He tried to step forward. You owe me. I don't know. I cut in, still quiet. I helped because I thought I was part of this family. You made it clear I'm not unless I'm paying. My dad stared at me like he'd never heard someone speak to him that way. Then he shifted tactics because he always did. He softened his voice just slightly. You're really choosing her over your blood? I felt something settle in my chest. A clean, cold clarity. I'm choosing my child, I said. That's what parents do. My dad's face twisted. Behind him, Beth's car pulled into my driveway like she'd been waiting down the street. She got out, eyes puffy, mascara smudged. Larry, she said, like my name was a complaint. This is insane. Dad is stressed. The kids were humiliated. I looked between them, and I realized something that almost made me laugh again. Not once had either of them asked how Nora felt. Not once had they even said her name. So I said it. Nora heard you, I told Beth. She heard you talk about a kid's vacation like she wasn't one of them. Beth's mouth opened, then closed. My dad snapped. She didn't need to hear adult business. She heard it because you said it in front of her. I said. Beth's voice rose. So what? You're going to cut us off forever? I kept it simple. You're off my accounts, I said. And you're off my calendar until my child is treated like family. My dad scoffed. So, you're blackmailing us? No, I said. I'm setting a boundary. My dad looked like he wanted to argue until his throat gave out. Then he did something that surprised me. He glanced past me, toward my front door, like he wanted to see if Nora was watching. Like he wanted to check if she looked sad. Not because he cared, but because he wanted to be sure she saw his power. I stepped sideways, blocking the view. Don't, I said, quiet but sharp. My dad's eyes flicked back to mine. Leave, I told them. Beth stared at me for a long moment. Then she said, You've changed. I nodded once. Yeah, I said. I had to. They left. Not with an apology. Not with understanding. Just anger and disbelief. Like I'd broken a rule they thought I'd follow forever. The calls and texts continued for a while. My dad left voicemails about respect and gratitude. Beth sent paragraphs about how I was punishing children. One cousin messaged to say I was being dramatic. Then Diane called me and said, Ignore them. They're only loud when the wallet walks away. A week later, Nora came home from school with a little paper snowflake she'd made in art class. She held it up like it was a trophy. Can we hang it in the window? She asked. Of course, I said. We taped it up together. Then she climbed onto a chair and added a second one beside it. This one is for us, she said, pointing at the first. And this one is for, the people who actually like me. She said it so casually, like she was talking about favorite colors. But my chest tightened anyway. I crouched beside her. You're liked, I said. You're loved. She nodded, but she didn't look fully convinced. So, I did something small. I pulled out my phone and texted Diane. Nora and I are doing our own little holiday night this weekend. Wanna come? Diane replied almost immediately. I'll bring cocoa and my loud opinions. That Saturday, Diane showed up with marshmallows and a board game. My neighbor, Mrs. Keller, came too, an older woman who'd watched Nora grow from shy to slightly less shy. We made grilled cheese. We watched a silly movie. We laughed. Nora laughed the most when Diane accidentally cheated at the board game and then defended herself like a lawyer. At the end of the night, Nora fell asleep on the couch with a blanket tucked under her chin. Diane stood in my kitchen while I rinsed mugs. She said softly, You did the right thing. I didn't say I know, because a part of me still hurt. A part of me still wanted my dad to look at Nora and see what I saw. But Diane was right. Right didn't always feel good. Right just felt steady. Call to action. This whole thing really taught me a lot about family, boundaries, and what it truly means to protect someone you love. I'm curious, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose between your comfort and someone else's well-being, especially when family was involved? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really love to hear them.